Hello, everyone, and welcome to the CapitalW Collective Mentoring Series. I'm Dr. Stacey, your host, and I'm excited to bring professionals of various mortgage industry roles who will share their wealth of experiences, insights, and recommendations from their own mentoring journeys. If you know CapitalW Collective, you know our commitment to education in the capital markets space. And in this series, we'll discuss the impact and importance of mentoring, no matter your role in this industry, educating you on what to do to elevate yourself and feel empowered to lean into mentoring. Today, our guest is Rhiannon Bolen with GridBase. Rhiannon, welcome.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thanks for being here with us today. I'm excited to have
My
this
pleasure.
conversation and to learn from you. I'd love for you to give a little bit of information to anyone in the crowd who happens to not know who you are, about who you are and what you do, and then we'll jump right into our questions.
Sure, absolutely. I appreciate it. And wanted to start by saying I love what you guys are doing at Capital W. I think that part of my background, I spent some time on the capital market side myself, and it's definitely there's definitely an opportunity to bring more women into that part of our industry. So kudos to you, and I love that you guys are doing this. And I appreciate the invite for being here. Rhiannon Bolen, I'm the SVP of Sales for GridBase. I've been in the mortgage industry for about 25 years. I'm a former business owner prior to getting into mortgage. And over the 25-year history that I've had, I've spent most of that time, almost all of it actually, in business to business sales. But I've spent time in various facets of the industry. I mentioned capital markets. I've been on the credit risk side. I've been in technology now for a number of years. I really value industry involvement. I think it's really been critical, at least for my career, and I love being involved in volunteering in our industry. And to that end, I've been on a number of different boards. I've been on the Texas Mortgage Bankers Association board for, probably since the earth cooled. And I was a past president of the Dallas Mortgage Bankers and TMBA, and I'm the vice chair of MORPAC currently, and part of the CMB Society as well. And I earned my CMB designation back in 2020. And that's, been just an incredible, for me, it was an incredible journey to take that journey towards the CMB. And probably one of my proudest achievements is founding the Texas Women Mortgage Bankers back in 2019. I know we're going to talk a little bit about that a little bit later. But we founded this association that's a subset of the TMBA, Texas Mortgage Bankers. Started out with about 45 of us, and now we're up to over 550 women and members that participate in our events. So that's a little bit about me. Love the mortgage industry, love what we do, love trying to get people in homes and any efforts around that. So.
Awesome. Wow. So there's no lie. Everything is bigger in Texas. Over 500 members in the Texas Women's MBA. That's fantastic. Yep. Fantastic.
Yeah.
So, and we have some similar paths. I'm also a CMB, but just recently, last fall, got my CMB. Also Future Leaders. I think there are just so many opportunities in this industry to lean into what you can do to develop professionally. My gig is to coach, especially women, to help them step into their superpowers and step into what they can do well. And I think mentoring is a huge part of that, which is why I'm so excited to bring this series to CapitalW Collective and our viewers. For all of us, we're on very different journeys. So our experiences really vary, but we'd love to hear about your experiences with mentoring. What's that been like for you in your career?
Yeah, I mean, first off, I think it's really critical and can be a very powerful part of your career journey and even just in your personal life. So I love that you guys are doing this. It's kind of interesting because since I've been in this industry for so long, I would say that back when I first started, I maybe sort of accidentally embarked on a mentoring journey with people that I worked with at various companies that I worked with. I don't know that it was something I recognized until, kind of in recent years where, mentoring and the promotion of being a mentor or promotion of finding or being a mentee to someone has really started to become more prevalent, I think. And it's more defined now, it's more encouraged, it's more supported, but 20 some odd years ago, it wasn't as much. And so I sort of have kind of found myself realizing later in my career, the last 10 or 15 years, that, I did have, some what would be now considered mentors, where I took away some really valuable pieces of guidance and support and information from individuals that stand out in my mind. And so, kind of fast forward to where we are today, where within companies, within associations, even just, within the Texas Women Mortgage Bankers, and some of the stuff that we focus on is all about that mentor relationship and what you can gain from that. And so I take sort of my past, what I'll call accidental experiences with mentoring, to some of the things that we try to be proactive about today. I love the opportunity to be a mentor when someone has some interest in discussing whatever it is they want to discuss with me. But I also find significant value in finding mentors for me as a mentee, that I can learn from, just kind of depending on what I'm trying to achieve. So I think it's and I know we're going to talk a little bit about what that would look like, and how does that relationship evolve. But for me, it was almost by accident. And then now, coming into where we are, and actually being proactive with how I approach that type of relationship.
Yeah, I can see how accidental mentoring would have happened. I think that's probably a similar, if for anybody who's been in the industry for a long time, it probably a similar experience for many of us, that it just kind of accidentally happens because there wasn't such a focus on it the way that we have seen in recent years. But certainly it opens up that idea that mentoring is a possibility all around you, just depending on how open you are to it, and how well you'll recognize it. But for somebody that's a bit reticent to either step into a mentor role or to seek a mentor, what advice would you give them to help them step forward?
So, and then just to your previous point, I totally agree with you. I can remember even just key sentences and key pieces of advice from my previous quote mentors that I carry on through how I interact with people today in my career and in my roles. So I totally agree with what you just said. Now having this sort of relationship be a little more defined and prevalent in the industry, what I have kind of learned over time is that the mentor-mentee relationship, it has to be proactive. It has to be intentional. And, it doesn't necessarily, there's a lot of companies that will promote inside of their organization, working with a mentor, someone that you work with, a manager that you report to. But I would submit that it almost is even better if you do that outside of your organization, so you have different perspectives, and approach it in such a way that it's more about you and your personal journey, your personal life, your personal career. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you can't get some benefit from inside your own company. There's certainly opportunities around that, but I would almost say, outside of that, for your own benefit, that, seeking this type of relationship can be really critical for that. So you do have to go into that, I think, identifying what that relationship should look like. I think it's really important to determine the type of mentor that you think you need for that particular point in time of your life and your career. Meaning, are there individuals that you have interacted with, or that you know that represent a certain skill set or experience level that you're looking for? Or maybe you're trying to get some assistance with career progression, or you're a new manager managing people, or you want to work on your, executive presence. There's a number of different, potential mentors to seek, but I think you as a mentee has to seek that out. And then once you find someone that you've identified and they say, sure, I would love to, visit with you and have this kind of conversation, I think the onus is on you as the mentee to come prepared to that relationship to say, here's what I want to achieve out of this. I think also it's really important to remember in the back of your head that just because you've identified a mentor and you work with somebody in that capacity, that doesn't mean that that's forever. I think there's different people that can represent different types of mentor opportunities throughout your career and throughout your life. So I think it's important to really, change it up, because there might be someone else, if you've spent some time with one certain mentor and kind of gotten what you want out of the relationship, to move on and maybe find something else. And, I do think there is kind of there's kind of an element of skill set around engaging in this type of relationship. We actually did a workshop at the Texas Women Mortgage Bankers. The whole session was around how to establish a mentor relationship, how to either be a mentor or be a mentee. And we, did kind of a whole a session where we were educating the audience on what that could look like, and best tips and tricks for, kind of how you can embark on that. So I do think it has to be intentional. I think it has to be proactive. But I think it's going to be extremely valuable,
That's brilliant. And I love this idea that concept. And I agree with you wholeheartedly that you have different mentors for different aspects of whether it's your personal or professional development. And those mentors can change. And some of them stay as mentors for your whole entire career. Some of them are a mentor for a season or a reason. Some of them become a part of the board of directors of the corporation of you. And they're with you until the end, until you decide you're going to hang it up and sit on a beach with a nice little umbrella drink and relax, or in a cabin with a book, whatever you choose. But I love that idea of that the mentee's doing the work.
Right.
Because it's their career, it's their path, it's their development. The mentor is there to guide them and to take them along that journey, but really stepping into that relationship with clear expectations.
And it doesn't mean mentor and mentee can't gain something from
Oh,
one another,
absolutely.
right? So,
Yeah.
I've oftentimes gone into a mentor type of relationship, and I've picked up just as much as the person that reached out to me to ask to be mentored. So,
100%.
yeah.
There've been situations where I've mentored someone, and the situation or the topic that I'm mentoring them about that we're discussing also happens to be something that resonates with me. So many times you find that you're learning in that moment or in that transaction or that relationship with that person. I 100% agree.
Yeah.
You mentioned that the Texas Women's MBA did a workshop about
Mhm.
getting started with mentoring. How does the Texas Women's MBA incorporate mentoring in service of its members as a whole?
Well, first off, huge passion of mine. I love this group that we have. We have this amazing foundation of women that have gotten themselves involved, raised their hands, and said we want to be a part of this. The mentor concept for the Texas Women Mortgage Bankers has kind of always been part of what we set out to achieve. It's always been part of our curriculum, if you will, or sort of our objectives to encourage and promote this type of relationship. So we've always kind of had an element of that. We've had some stops and starts. We started in 2019, and we started down a path where we may have found ourselves a little trying to be too involved in it and kind of doing intentional pairing and different things. And we backed off of that a little bit, and then we landed more recently at a place where we've created a LinkedIn page so that our potential mentors can go onto this page, talk about what kind of skill set they bring to a mentee as part of that equation, and then allowing sort of kind of natural interaction and engagement through that site. We talk about the mentor-mentee relationship, and we encourage the pairing and partnering at all of our events. We do 3 events a year, which is an undertaking in and of itself, but we do 3 events a year where we share, access to the LinkedIn page that we have. And then we encourage, I have this amazing group of women that we call our host committee. And they have all basically, they raise their hands for almost everything. because they're amazing, but they also have said we are open to being mentors, and so they kind of put themselves out there. And when we have our events, these women stand up as part of the event, and when we are talking about our mentor engagement, we encourage anyone in that room, which there could be 150 of us in there, to seek out these women that have raised their hands or they're standing up in the crowd, and engage with them around that kind of a relationship. So we've kind of gotten to a place where we're trying to have just sort of natural engagement, but also being very supportive of that relationship, encouraging that relationship. And that's why we did that whole session around how to embark on that journey and what that would look like, and what are the types of questions that you should ask, and what are you trying to seek, and then how to be proactive about it. Because for us, it's really, really important. There's a lot of really incredible young women in our industry, and even women that are in the mid to the back half of their career, that struggle with various things, and really need someone to bounce things off of, and kind of have a sounding board for whatever it is they're experiencing in their career. So we want to foster that. We want to encourage it. And I know we've had, at almost all of our events, we have just this incredibly, opportunity for the women that are participating to be vulnerable, and to engage with someone, and whatever they can take away from that. For us, we find it can only be positive, right?
Yeah. I love that you've taken that structure that you've created for mentoring, but you've turned it into something that develops organically in those relationships. I mean, I've seen successful mentoring where a person was assigned to a mentor because the person that did the assigning just knew the two of them so well and knew that there was benefit from that potential relationship. But in my own experience, the mentors that have really impacted me the most have come from those organically developed
Mm-hmm.
relationships, and you providing just the space for that to happen
Mm-hmm.
in and of itself is a blessing for the women of the Texas Women's MBA. I would challenge any other state out there that's thinking about starting their own women's MBA in their state or has one. If you're not including mentoring, get with Rhiannon and Team Texas Women's MBA and find out what they're doing to create that space and make it happen. Because those are the things, especially as we work in a very different industry, we're so remote in so many
Mm-hmm.
facets that having the opportunity to connect, we have to be very intentional about that. And you're creating that space. I love it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Absolutely love it. So, any parting words that you have for our audience about mentoring or your experience, or stepping into it? Anything you want to add?
No, I think just like we've been talking about, I think it can be an incredibly critical value to you as a being in the mortgage industry, but also not just professionally, but personally as well. We all struggle with how to balance our work lives with our personal lives. In particular, women, especially in this recent downturn we've had, have been disproportionately affected, and so there's a lot of opportunity, I think, to engage around how do you navigate through some of these challenges, and how do you get to a place where you can have meaningful and constructive conversations with your company or people that you work with, and sometimes that's not just a natural thing, and sometimes there's an element of anxiety that comes with some of that stuff, and you're not exactly sure how to do it, and so I think the engaging down the path of a mentor type of relationship, a mentee type of relationship, can really be super critical. And if you make it just part of your, kind of daily, weekly, monthly life, and of your career and your personal life, I think it can be such a great thing, and just bring so much value to you personally. So I would highly encourage it.
All right, my friends, you heard it right there. Give yourself the gift of mentoring. Whether you're the mentor or the mentee, that relationship has so much value for your personal and professional development, and each one bleeds into the other. So let's do that. Let's give ourselves that gift. If you think that I've not been around long enough to be a mentor, Think again, my friends, there is something in this life that you can mentor another person about. So step into your superpowers and start mentoring today. Thanks for joining us. We look forward to seeing you again at another of the Capital W Collective Mentoring Series videos, and we will talk with you all real soon. Take good care.